All right, so I'm first going to start with this assignment and showing you how you can, begin to think of developing your content so that you know how to develop your structure for your HTML. Content is the most important thing, so we want to devise our structure based on the delivery of specific kinds of content. I've told you that you're going to be making a page that is a little bit about yourself, and even though you might already have an outline to work with, I want to show you the way that I thought about beginning this so that you can see kind of that process so you'd be able to do it yourself. So if you're going to talk a little bit about yourself, maybe break it into some different sections. So for instance, I might want to do like an overview who I am. As I type this, these are sort of notes. They're not necessarily exactly what I'm going to say. Maybe another thing I'd do is like maybe some hobbies. Maybe I'd also have some professional goals. All right, let's try that. Let's do professional goals. Maybe another thing would be personal goals, because they may not be the same. Maybe they are, maybe they're not. Maybe they're related, slightly different. And then maybe provide a way for people to get in touch with you. And that can be a different variety of ways. Let's say that these are your main sections. And maybe you could think of these as like articles, because each section is going to have a title, which would be in a header, and then you would have some other information. So let's think a little bit about what would go inside of each of these. And here I'll go ahead and provide some additional space inside. So in the overview, maybe the first thing that we'd want to have is like a short sentence that helps summarize who you are or what your personality's like. That might be, just a quick little blurb. Another thing that you could do is maybe have an inspirational quote, something that you would find that you feel really embodies kind of who you are, or what your attitude is like. That could be something that would be a nice little quick overview. And then down here in my hobbies area, I could have like a short sentence that says something like, these are some of my hobbies. Let's try that, okay? And then you would have a list of your hobbies right there. And that might be all that we would need for this article section. And in fact, we could kind of copy this and then you would have your list here. And then you can just copy this again for personal, but we'll say these are my personal goals. All right, then you have your list. And maybe for my professional goals, we'll say in this order. Okay, maybe we'll have a specific order to the professional goals, and maybe we'll have an unordered list in our personal goals. And for get in touch, we can say something like Instagram or Facebook. Gotta spell Instagram, right? Okay, list your email if you wanted. You don't have to. In fact, you probably don't want to. It's up to you. Instagram, Facebook, if you have a personal website, things like that. LinkedIn. However it is that you would think that somebody would want to get in touch with you or learn more about you, or some way that they can check you out. If you have a Twitter account, whatever. Okay, so these would be maybe some articles. The other thing that you would want to do is at the top some sort of page introduction, and maybe that page introduction would then have your your name, and then also something else you could put in there is, let's say you could have an image or a picture of yourself, myself, whatever. All right, and then down at the bottom we want to sort of close the page. Let's say page closing. And then let's say that here we're going to do like a copyright. You also might want to have a link to the top of the page. Okay, something like that. And then one of the other things that we can also do is up here in the beginning of the page, we could have like a little navigation section that will jump down to these specific sections of the page, these specific articles like get in touch, personal goals, and etc. All right, so if you want, let's just put a little navigation up here. Navigation, and I'll just put in parentheses internal page nav or something like that. Okay, so this is like a really quick little basic outline of the kinds of things that I'm going to include. So now what we can do is we can get this into sort of a better outline that makes it really clear what part is what, right? So, and how we're going to do the nesting. And if you want, you can do like a traditional outline since we're just in a Word document, and be clear on this with me that this is not going to be your HTML page right here. This actual Word document's not. This is just for planning and research purposes. So let's highlight the main sections and we'll put them in bold. That way we can clearly see which ones are the main article sections. And whenever we start to close up these spaces in between. All right, so we'll do something like this. And then we're going to put the whole thing in an outline list, something where we can nest everything. So let's just take all of this and go ahead and apply. I'm going to give it an order. So we'll do like this kind of order. Let's just do that. Something like this. Right now they're all in numerical order, but as soon as I take these and I highlight them and I hit the tab key, it will nest them down there inside. Okay, and so that's what I'm going to do. I'll also nest that one as well. So I'm going to just nest everything right now that is not bolded so that they go underneath the bolded areas. And we'll just do something like that. All right, and so that kind of gives us a basic overview of major sections, you know, in terms of like what this should be or what this should be, and the things that get nested inside of it. And so one of the first things I'll do right here where it says page introduction is I'm just gonna put this like this so that you can, you know, to help you understand, this wouldn't be a traditional article. This would be perhaps a header. And I'm just going to type them in all caps, even though that's not really the way that the HTML would look. So I'm going to type that in all caps. That would be a header tag. And so everything inside of that would be nested inside the header tag. And for an image right here, I'll put this at the beginning. Let's say, maybe that'll be easier if I cut that, and let's do that here at the beginning. Okay, so we'll do it like that. And then here we'll say IMG tag. Something like this, I guess. And then that way you'll know that this picture is supposed to be an IMG. All right. And then maybe for the name, that would be your heading level 1. Let's try that. Oops, let's go heading 1. And then just so you know, if I spell it right, heading 1, that would be like an H1. Okay. Just to give you a reminder since you're pretty new to this. And then navigation, there's actually a thing called the nav tag. And so I'll put nav tag, okay? And we'll put that in bold as well, all right? And so these things would be ordered like this, where, you know, the image, the heading, and the nav tag are all in the same structural hierarchy, but they're nested inside of this header, which is going to be our page introduction. And this page introduction, it's, you know, I could put it in quotes, I could put it however, maybe this isn't actually going to have a name, but it's going to be, so I'll put it like in italics. It's not going to actually be named this, you're not going to see it on the page, but it's giving me an idea here what that is serving as its purpose. All right, and so the next thing that I can do is where I've got overview is we decided that that was going to be an article. All right, and so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to copy that for each one of these articles, and then I'll paste that in so that it's really obvious. And then down here for this one, we'll say that this is the footer tag. Okay, not fodder, footer. All right, and then and some of the stuff like the header tag, the footer tag, you're going to learn that as we go along, but I'm kind of helping you visualize, you know, how you might want to start thinking about organizing your content if you're not sure how to get started in the HTML. All right, and so for the article where it says short sentence, well, a short sentence, something like that might be a paragraph. So let's do a paragraph tag. And then let's go ahead and bold that. I'll copy that. And I don't know that there are any other paragraphs, so maybe I didn't need to copy it. But all right, and where it says inspirational quote, there's a thing in HTML that's called a block quote. And so that's what we're going to put that quote inside of, is a block quote tag. So we'll bold that. And then for your hobbies, this is going to be the paragraph. Yeah, so let's copy this. Where it says these are my professional goals. Maybe that'll be my paragraph tag. Also, there's a paragraph tag here where it says these are my personal goals. So that will be a paragraph. And these are some of my hobbies. that'll be a paragraph as well. And then where we've got list, that's actually a list. So let's just go ahead and put, in this case, my hobbies are going to be unordered. So we'll say unordered list like this. I'll say of hobbies. I'll put that in italics so that we know that that's not actually the words that go inside the list. So I'll bold that. I'm going to copy that. And down here in the next list, see here I'm saying in this order, so that's actually going to be an ordered list. And instead of saying unordered, we're going to say that this is an ordered list. And then of pro goals like that. And again, I'll put that in italics. And then I'm going to copy this. I'll copy that. And I will paste that there. And this is not of hobbies. This is of personal goals. Okay. And this kind of will help you see the nesting and how it's supposed to be organized. Now here, these are going to be some different ways to get in touch, right? So I would suggest that this is going to actually be inside of a list. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say unordered list. And then since this is where you can kind of decide what's going to go inside that unordered list, and you can tab it in so that you can see that that's nested inside of your unordered list, all right? So if you know that you can actually use this document if you want to kind of to type out your personal goals, you know, like you could come here and say goal, goal, and then goal, right? And you could have like 3 goals or something. And then that would be something that you would put inside that unordered list. Same is going to be true up here. We'll say goal, goal, goal. All right, and I'm just gonna, and then you could actually type it in here if you wanted to go ahead and have it ready to go. And then here we'll come down and we'll say hobby. And so you can start to see this kind of taking shape. Now down here in the footer, we can have this be a paragraph. And then the link that's to the top of the page. This is one of those things where, you know, it could also be in a paragraph tag, or the copyright could be a list, the link could be a list. It really kind of depends on when we get down there how we want to do it. Maybe both of these things are inside of the paragraph tag. So maybe we're going to do both of these things inside the paragraph. This is going to be an anchor tag because it's a link, okay? And we'll get to this and how you're going to include it later. Like these two things could be inside of the same paragraph, or you could have them as a list, but we'll talk about that later. Now, this is, you know, a pretty good starting place. And then for the navigation, at this point, you could say, okay, well, I think I'm going to link to my overview, hobbies, professional goals, personal goals, get in touch. So if you wanted for your navigation, you could come up here and you could say that you're going to create inside your nav tag, you're going to create an unordered list. And inside of that unordered list, you're going to have some different navigational links. You'll go to, let's just say that it's going to be anchor tag. It'll be anchor because it's going to be a link. So we'll say overview. And I'm going to just kind of copy some of this. We'll copy this. Hobbies, anchor, pro goals. And the last one can be, I think we said, get in touch. Okay. Now, one last thing that we need to look at if we're going to try to use this as a pretty good roadmap for our HTML is the way that we've got our articles. So up here for header, for instance, I put this in italics where it says page introduction because I don't really intend for it to actually say that. One of the things that I could also do to help me remember that is I could kind of put it in like a light gray. So that's something else that could happen. I think there was another place where I had that, like where it says of pro goals, for instance. Let's just make that like in light gray. So that might help me remember that that's not actually something I want it to actually say on the page. That I'm not going to type something there. But for article, you know, we actually maybe want to have something like the word who I am. So the words who I am. So let's just come down here, and I'm going to do this really quickly where I put overview in my in italics and in gray, so that I can see what it's supposed to kind of be, where it's overview. And okay, so where it says who I am, it actually is going to be the thing that is a heading. But for an article, just so you know, this is going to be brand new to you, but in an article, there is an assumed logic to an article, because an article is something that could, in theory, be taken and syndicated somewhere else. So somebody could literally pull a piece of an article and put it into a different website. The article needs to have certain kinds of things that identify that article. For instance, like the article should have a header inside of it, and inside of the header should be some sort of heading level that kind of helps you semantically understand what this article is going to be about. And so that structure would look something like this. Let's go ahead, and I'm going to come over here and I'm going to type header. All right, and then inside of the header, we're going to nest that, and we're going to say H1, or excuse me, heading 2. Let's say heading level 2, and I'll just put like H2 out here next to it so that you can get an idea of what that tag name is supposed to be for heading 2, heading level 2. And I'm going to unbold where it says who I am. Now the thing is that header and it's actually nested inside this article, so I'm going to tab all of those things in. So the way that we can look at this is we have an article, and then inside that article we have a header, and inside of that header we have an H2 that says who I am. Now the reason I said that it should be an H2 is because up here we already used an H1, and now the thing is you can have multiple H1s on a page in HTML5, but a lot of people will still say that it's kind of a good practice to make your H1 still be the only H1 on the page that kind of identifies what that page is up in your title, in the main header up there. And then the rest of the things should be H2s that are sort of, I guess, nested beneath the H1 in theory, right? And then below H2s would be H3s, and so on and so on, right? But the way that you would do this for articles that for best practice in HTML5 is that an article would have a header that it starts with, and inside that header it needs to have some sort of heading level. And in this case, I'm going to use H2 because we've already used an H1 up here. So all other headings would sort of be, if you were to look at an outline of the document in like some sort of HTML tool, it would show that the most important heading is this name here, and then all these other things like, so it'd be, for instance, if this were my name and I said Lee Cotner, right? I am Lee Cotner, something, hi, I'm Lee Cotner, like if that's what I actually said on the page, right? Then in a document outline for a screen reader, it would say, hi, I'm Lee Cotner is the main heading for the page. And then under that, it would be like who I am. And then the next one would be hobbies. And the next one would be professional goals, so that you know that those are all related to, hi, I'm Lee Cotner, right? So that's kind of helpful. Now, if I want, what I can do is I can try to take this structure right here. I'm going to copy it and see if it helps me over here in these other articles. And it does, right? So they don't have to completely reinvent the wheel. And this would be where I would say my hobbies, all right? And then here I'm going to do that same thing where I put it in italics, and I'm going to gray it out so that I can see that hobbies here is just an indicator of what this area is, all right? But I'm going to come back down here again, and we'll paste that in. Let's get rid of that. And then down here, we're going to say professional goals. And again, we'll take this and we will italicize it and put it in gray. Let's take this, we'll copy this. And for this, we'll say personal goals. And then this last article here, we're going to say get in touch. That is italics and gray. All right, and so now we have an actual structure. And for a footer, I don't have to have a heading excuse me, a header with a heading level in it if I don't want to. That's not important. But articles, this is a best practice that you should start your article with a header that has a heading level in it. Okay, so this is I think a good place to start, and from this you can go on to the next video and you can get started in HTML.